Foie gras and truffles add rich, earthy notes to this delicate pigeon in flaky pastry. It's Le Sud restaurant in Luxembourg's house specialty, and once you've tasted it, you'll know why.
I'm going to prepare a recipe for you today. It's a traditional recipe that I have made in the restaurant for several years. It's pigeon in a pastry crust, foie gras, cabbage and truffles. So here's the pigeon with the truffles. That's the truffle there, the St. John, of course, it's not black truffle. With the cabbage, the foie gras, the egg yolk, the onions, the carrots, the flaky pastry and the potatoes.
Alors, je vais vous montrer la préparation du pigeon, donc il va falloir enlever tout, la peau. Alors,
I'm going to show you how to prepare the pigeon. You have to remove everything, including, of course, the skin. There we have already chopped off the head, and we are going to keep it to make the broth. The tips of the wings we aren't going to keep there, just the feet. So then we take the thighs. We make a little cut in the front, and like that we can completely remove the skin from the pigeon.
On donne un petit coup devant. Et là, on va retirer la peau complètement.
We take it all off. It's completely skinned. No skin on the thighs, nor on the wings. We take off the skin like this, and then we take the fillet.
Ceci. Voilà. On va lever les filets. Alors, le pigeon, c'est la spécialité.
Pigeon is the specialty of the house.
Voilà. The
carcass will be crushed later to make the broth, so we are going to take care of that. We're finishing just the thighs. So we remove the skin, you see, it comes off by itself. There. We remove the bone, and there we will leave the bone.
Et là, on va manchonner. Donc
there. Now we only have to stuff it.
Comme ça, là, il n'y a plus qu'à farcir. Voilà, comme ça. Voilà. Donc là,
so we have the carcass to make the broth. And then the pigeon is deboned and we're going to keep it cold, ready to stuff.
Désossé, que l'on va mettre au frais, prêt à farcir.
Concerning the cabbage that we are going to use to stuff the pigeon, we simply remove the core, then we chop it, then boil it in salt water for 5 minutes. Drain it a little, add a little bit of onion, some butter, and then we let it cook down for 5 minutes before taking it off the stove and putting it into the fridge. When that's been done, we are going to press it lightly to form little balls. There, that's just for the cabbage. It doesn't take much time. What we're going to do now is the pigeon broth. So, olive oil, we're going to heat it up with the carcass, and at the same time we're going to get our mashed potatoes with truffles going. Now we're going to take the potatoes that we cut up a little earlier and cover them with a generous portion of butter.
Juste à hauteur, et on met généreusement beaucoup de beurre. Voilà.
That's going to cook like that for a good quarter of an hour.
Là, il faut compter quand même un bon petit quart d'heure. Alors, on revient au jus.
So we go back to the broth. The carcass needs to be brown a little bit, and they really have to be browned with onions and carrots.
Il faut bien que ça soit coloré là, par contre. Il faut vraiment que ça soit coloré. Oignons et carottes. Alors c'est un jus.
It's a very simple broth. There's no wine, no alcohol, just the carcass, which has been covered with chicken broth and having cooked for about 30 minutes. So there's the mashed potatoes that we prepared with a masher, there's already the butter, and we added a little bit of cream, but it is mostly butter. And then we mash it again while adding the chopped
Alors, donc, la purée
truffle.
de pommes de terre donc, que l'on écrase à la fourchette. Avec, donc il y avait le beurre auparavant. Et on a mis un tout petit peu de crème dedans. On met beaucoup de beurre surtout. Et là, on l'écrase à la fourchette en ayant mis la truffe hachée. Donc là,
And we're going to be very generous here.
généreusement pour la purée. Sel, poivre.
Salt, pepper, voila.
Par contre, il faut pas trop
You
la
don't want to
travailler
work
parce
it too
qu'après,
much,
elle corde, donc,
or they get a little bit too stringy. They become too elastic. Back to the broth, there's the carcass which has been strained to recruit the broth. Lightly whip the butter, salt and pepper. The broth is already done, so we'll leave it on the edge of the stove for just a few minutes.
Donc on laisse sur le coin du four d'eau. Ça, c'est... Et là, on va passer
And now we're going to assemble the pigeon, and the only thing we have to do then is put it into the oven. You see what we did? It has to be in this direction. It's very important. Now we're going to add the foie gras. The foie gras cut in two, a fresh foie gras like this one, some truffle that has been thinly sliced like this.
Voilà. De la truffe, donc, la truffe qui est émincée. Voilà, comme ça. Là, on a le
Then
chou.
we have the
Donc,
cabbage.
le chou, ce que je vous disais tout à l'heure,
And the
donc,
cabbage,
quand
as
il est
I
bien
told you
froid,
earlier, when it's been cooled down, we drain it and press it to make little forms
ballotin comme ça, qui a un peu
that
la
look
forme du
a little bit
qu'on
like
pose
pigeons.
dessus.
And then we're going to place that on top.
Chose qu'il ne faut pas oublier, ce que j'ai pas fait, c'est d'assaisonner les deux côtés concernant.
So something you shouldn't forget, which I forgot, is to season both sides of the thigh.
La cuisse par-dessus.
The wing is pointed, so you need to take it in this direction along the thigh.
La pâte feuilletée,
The flaky pastry, we're going to shape it into a disc.
un peu étalée, en rond,
So each time, it's a half.
le pigeon. Donc chaque fois c'est le demi, hein, le pigeon. Voilà. Qu'on pose sur un petit morceau.
We
de
put a little piece of paper down,
Ensuite,
and then we take the
on prend le
pigeon,
pigeon,
the
Alors,
little
jaune
egg
d'œuf,
yolk, just the yolk,
uniquement un jaune d'œuf,
with a brush
avec un
to make it
pinceau,
brown
pour faire la
nicely.
dorure. On y va, mais
I'm going to do this with my
avec les
fingers,
doigts,
excuse
je suis
me.
désolé,
Generously, really, so that it browns nicely.
pour qu'il soit
We
bien
can't
doré.
do it any other way.
On n'a pas le choix. Parce qu'il faut bien qu'il y en ait de partout. Hop.
It has to be everywhere. Turn it all the way around. And what's left to do, you keep like this without
Là,
any
ce qu'il
problem
reste à
all
faire,
day in the
donc,
fridge.
ça, vous pouvez
When
le
you're ready
garder
to
sans
cook
aucun
it,
problème
you put it into a dish
pendant toute
like
une
this.
journée, au frigo. Au moment où vous
And
avez
then you put it in the oven for
besoin,
20 minutes at 210 or 220 degrees, somewhere around about that.
comme ça. Et là, on va le mettre au four
The equivalent for the oven at home would be 8 or
à
9.
210-220 degrés. L'équivalent, on va dire, suivant les fours, entre 8-9 à la maison.
The pigeon cooks for 20 minutes at 220 degrees, then we cut it into two.
On coupe en deux.
The mashed potatoes with truffles are hot.
Pommes de terre aux truffes.
We fill up the bird, which is also very hot.
On remplit la cocotte, qui elle-même est chaude aussi.
We open it carefully. All we need now is the broth.
Et il nous reste le jus pour l'accompagner. Voici donc
Here it is, the pigeon in a pastry crust, foie gras, cabbage and truffles, with the mashed potatoes with truffles.